Happy Monday to everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am here with the wonderful Claire Sakaguchi, sorry. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well now that I'm here in the chat. And I want to say hi to everyone on the chat. And Claire's joining all the way from Portland, so I would love to know where everyone else is joining us from. And right before we go ahead and jump in with Claire, I want to go over a few things for the schedule for today and tomorrow. So for the schedule for today and tomorrow, we have Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge with Video Val, followed at 9:30 by Adobe Live Drawing and Painting with Stephen Green. And next up at 11:30, we are kicking off our Daily Creative Challenge for Adobe XD with Julian. And today we're going to be doing some workflows and pro tips with Claire. Oregon, right? Yes, Oregon.
Yes, Portland, Oregon.
And then next up, in about 30 minutes, we're going to be doing a chat and win, where you get a chance to win 100 die-cut stickers from Sticker Mule. And so all you need to do is come on in and chat away, and you get a chance to win. And in about an hour and 30 minutes, we're going to be doing some portfolio reviews. Just submit your portfolio over to our Adobe XD Discord and to the portfolio channel, and we'll take a look and give you some feedback. It's a little daunting, but we're only here to help. And with that in mind, we're headed over to Claire.
All right, sounds good. All right, so thanks so much for the intro. I can share my screen here. So as you said, my name is Claire Sakaguchi. I am a senior UX designer based out of Portland, Oregon, and I currently work at a company called Bar3. So we are a boutique fitness company. We have the studio business as well as our digital subscription product. So I sit on that digital team supporting the digital product as the UX designer. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So I'll give you guys a little bit of context of what the user problem we're looking at, what the goal of this product is, and then speak to the brand a little bit as well. So for those of you that are less familiar with Bar3, we are, again, that fitness company, and I think what really sets Bar3 apart is that our approach to fitness is less focused on how you look and really based on how you feel. And so I really try to bring kind of those principles from kind of the product side and the brand side into all of my design decisions to make sure that all of our users have the opportunity to kind of see metrics of success that are, again, based on feelings versus, things like weight loss or measurements. That's not our approach. So that being said, is kind of my design process. I always like to work backwards from a user problem and really follow that traditional design process. So I won't spend too much time kind of going through the research piece, but that would typically be the very beginning of my design process, is making sure that I really understand the needs of the user, understand the problems, and really focus on that need finding and that problem finding. So to kind of jump forward to what I have framed for us today as the user problem, really thinking about our online clients and why they choose to work out online. So, we have recognized that people who choose to work out online are super busy. They're, coming to us because they want to work out at, 4 o'clock in the morning before their kids wake up, or they want to squeeze it in at the end of the day. And so from the product side, how can we really make sure that we respect a user's limited time and make sure that the experience serves content in a very efficient way so that they can spend their valuable time working out rather than searching for the right workout? So keep that in mind as we kind of go through designing some of the experience today. And then really what I'm going to be focusing on today is creating a browsable experience for discovering online workouts and really focus on a way to kind of bring that in-studio experience online. I think it's really interesting to think about the online and the offline and how we can mimic a little bit of that in a digital platform. All right, so
it's exciting. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, it's a big challenge.
It's always a challenge for me to get from my couch to the studio.
Yes, absolutely.
And I also want to say very quickly to hi to everyone in the chat. I think we have some people from Ireland, from Istanbul,
awesome.
from Texas.
Thanks for joining.
Texas was very excited. Hi, Lindsay. again, we encourage people to engage with us in chat, ask us any questions, and be happy to answer them.
Awesome, yes. So before I dive in, I just want to give a quick look at my Behance page as well. So I am a little bit new to Behance, so you'll see that my numbers are a little bit low. But in here, you'll see a few different projects from both Bar 3 and Amazon. So before I was at Bar 3, I spent about 3 years at Amazon, so there's a few different projects in there as well. And some projects show a little bit of process, some just kind of show the final results. But I always try to give a little bit of context of how we started designing in the first place. So you can feel free to jump in there at any point as well.
Cool.
All right, should we dive in?
I think we should dive in.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna open XD here and I'm gonna walk through kind of what I have set up for us and then walk through kind of what the focus is for today. So I've already uploaded our design system. We have super talented art directors and visual designers at Bar 3 that have already put together kind of our brand color palette, our typefaces, and a few of the different components. So it makes it super easy to start building out wireframes in a really high fidelity way, making sure that all the fonts that we already use will apply to the screens that we're creating. So I love that.
So for beginner designers and they're trying to get into this, do you recommend them thinking in a way, thinking ahead to create a design system as they're going about their project, or?
Definitely. I think it really helps with consistency, especially if you have a pretty complex app or system. Being able to identify this limited set of colors or type or components really makes it, I think, more efficient in the long term, that you're not having to go back and then figure out, okay, well now I have to redesign this page because the type that I initially put in is way too small or way too big than the end system. So I think it is helpful to kind of parallel path those activities. And in the long run, once this upfront work is done, it will make the rest of your design process so much faster and I think more efficient as well.
Great.
Okay, so today I wanted to focus on a single user flow. Of course, as part of my process, I will always try to map out all of the different use cases, all the different edge cases, so that we're super clear on all the different variations of the screens that we might need in the final handoff. But for today, I want to keep it pretty simple and just think about kind of that path to finding a video and what that looks like. So just to kind of walk through what this is, we have that very first step. If you are new to the app or new to the experience, you can go ahead and log in. And then you're going to land on what I have been referring to as the Discover page. So this is really the hallmark of the experience, that place where people can come and start to browse and look for new content. And so this is where we're going to be spending a lot of the time today to really think about what are those different paths to finding content, what is valuable to people, what kind of metadata do they need, so that we can, again, address that user problem of efficiency and simplicity. From there, the user is going to go ahead and select a video based on their set of criteria, their set of needs for that day, and then they're going to land on that video detail page. So we'll also be designing that, thinking about what kind of information needs to live on this secondary layer, this detail page, to again help them get more out of the video, understand more about the video before they press play. And then once they've watched the video, we're going to think about this feature, which I'm calling the feeling tracker. So again, for Bar 3, we're really focused on how you feel, as though, is there a way that we can integrate into the experience so that people can give us that feedback, so they can start to see qualitatively how they're feeling and how that progresses over time. So these are the 3 pages that we're going to start with, calling it the Discover page, the Detail page, and the Feeling Tracker. We'll see how far we get, and then from there we can start layering on some more features and kind of part to that as well.
Sounds good. All right.
right.
I'm excited to see what kind of discovery pages we might add.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to hear from the audience too, what everybody values in kind of thinking about what workout they want to do.
Maybe we should ask them for some suggestions.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm curious to ask the chat how you decide to do a workout. Is it something that you kind of have planned ahead? Is it something that you spontaneously decide to do? What is that kind of workout process look like for people.
So this is going to be kind of our accelerated research.
Yeah, this is going to supplement
our
different users. Super curious. I always love to learn how people behave with different products and apps.
What would you do? Do you do yoga? Do you do cycling?
So I like to have a little bit of a kind of balance, but I'm definitely a planner in terms of workouts. So I kind of know for the week what I'm going to do each day and kind of revolve around that. I've actually just tried to kind of switch my schedule now to do morning workouts, which has been a little bit of a challenge but it's good motivation to, not snooze through my alarm.
I've tried that. I always try that, and I always sleep through my alarm.
It's hard. It's so hard. It's dark and it's cold. Winter's really hard.
I like Howard's idea of working out so you can eat more burritos.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, it's you work out so that you can have time at night to then eat all the foods that you want.
All the foods, all the cookies, all the pizzas.
Absolutely. It's about balance. Life is a balance. Let's see, what else is in here? So lots of scheduling, kind of planning out their calendar a week in advance. Sticking to one body group each week. That's super interesting.
Each week? It's really interesting.
Yeah, kind of rotate through. I like that idea.
Okay.
That definitely counts too. I think it's all about, finding the different kinds of movements in your day that work and, doing what you can. It is, hard to squeeze it in. I think that's kind of one of the draws of online fitness is that you can just decide at night, like, hey, I have 30 minutes, I'm just going to do this workout, versus having to kind of drive to the studio and park. That adds to that.
So you're removing as many barriers to get started from
absolutely
from working out, essentially. Okay, so I guess we're going to be designing the user logs.
So we're going to start kind of with this Discover page. So I'm going to go ahead and create an artboard. I'm going to do mobile first. I'm going to start with mobile today. I think that's probably going to be my focus. And I typically design for the smallest screen because I feel like if I can fit everything on a 320 screen, then it will fit on a bigger screen. So I always start with it.
So you tend to think mobile first. You design
definitely mobile first, and mobile, like the smallest mobile screen, the 320. And then which is probably
hence why she's zooming in here. This is actual size.
But this is live size. So I'm gonna create a few different guides. So I'm just gonna go over from the left and pull over my two margins. So I'm gonna do 10 pixels on each side, just to give myself something to work with. And then I'm gonna also just put a middle line just so that I can make sure that things that I wanna be centered, I can easily do. So as we build out this page, there's a few components that we already have designed that I can go ahead and just kind of drag and drop. So something like our nav, that's already built in or already part of the system. So I'm gonna go ahead and just pop that in the top of the page because I know that that is always going to be on all of our screens. Okay, so from here, before I start kind of pushing pixels and thinking about that, I'm just gonna lay out what I think are components at a very high level of this page so that then we can start to fill in from there. So I know we're gonna have a top slot. So in my mind, I kind of think about the way that users discover content in 3 different ways. So I think that we have that person who kind of logs in and immediately wants to press play, like they don't want to spend any time looking for anything. They trust us to give them kind of that hero video or that first video. I also think we have the types of users who are kind of what I call spearfishers, where they know themselves so well, they're just gonna go filter. They know exactly, what instructor they like, what time they like, and they're just gonna filter and choose based on those results. And then I think at the third level, we do have that kind of browsing user who is maybe interested to see what's new, what different ways they can find content, less so going through filters or clicking on that top slot. So I think it's important to kind of balance all those needs on kind of a page like this.
Okay, so there's a very wide range of your audience, and you're trying to account for essentially the first person,
correct,
person who knows what they want to do,
yep,
person trying to mingle and figure out.
Right, exactly. Okay. I think it's supporting different paths from a single page.
Yeah, and Demir has an interesting hot take. Should it be a golden rule for mobile first these days?
I think it's a good question. I think for me, when we actually look at the numbers for something like streaming, we do see more people streaming from a computer, right? Because it's a bigger screen. But I think that starting with mobile, at least, again, it gives you that structure that you can then apply to desktop. I think you have to start somewhere. But I think just as a designer, I always think it's best practice to start with mobile. I think that's the direction that we are going, that we're seeing more and more people shop on their phones and do these things that typically maybe, several years ago they would have all done from a desktop. But I think that's just kind of the direction that we're going, especially in app design. So for me, that is where I start. But I think it could be case by case depending on what kind of product you're designing.
Absolutely. I think it makes sense. Like, everyone's shopping with their phones, everyone's doing things from their phones a lot more nowadays. Can't really think too many things where it would be mainly desktop.
And I think too, it's thinking about, I don't think sometimes a user journey is just from one device. I think a lot of times, you might start from your phone and then pick up again on your computer. And, so being able to think about where people start their journey and end their journey is also really interesting.
Really.
To adapt
That's
for.
a great way to look at it.
So maybe you're subscribing from your phone, but then you're working out from your computer. Okay. So we're gonna start by mapping this out. So again, based on those different kinds of users, I do think it's important to have some kind of hero content at the very top, where it's that easy thing to kind of press play on. So I'm just gonna call that our hero for now. We're not gonna worry too much how the type looks because it's just a filler. So as I, kind of think about this page, I'm a huge fan of kind of card design and having that kind of modularity and flexibility. I think it has a lot of benefits, not only from, a design system perspective, but also from a development perspective, right? It gives us flexibility to test different slots. Maybe we want to move them around. But this modularity is something that I want to try out as we're building this page and kind of see what happens.
Santaji, I apologize if I butchered anyone's name ahead of time, but Santaji has a question revolving around, do you normally define the UI components and type styles before starting the layouts?
Yeah, so I think, it again is kind of case by case of where you dive into a project. I think ideally it's super nice to have your design system laid out before you kind of go into the UX piece, just so that you are not having to rework things because you kind of put a placeholder that actually doesn't align with kind of the final design system. I think it's fine if UX comes in first and they are at least saying, hey, we're gonna need XYZ components, and that kind of gets handed off to visual design. I think it depends how the structure of a business is laid out too. I think sometimes UX does visual design, or it is more specifically laid out. So I wouldn't say that there's an absolute yes or no way that you have to do it. I think ideally it's great if you can have a system defined first.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. It also depends if you're in a business that already has like branding already said and done and some visuals. If you're coming in completely straight with a new project you're working on for a client who doesn't have that stuff, it's not necessary. You could go ahead and start doing the UX portion, sketching out an idea, and then from there, as Claire mentioned earlier, design a design system in parallel with what you're designing the layout. And it helps things down the line.
And I think for us, we're a really brand-driven company, so having that alignment to the brand is so important throughout the whole process. I think there could be more flexibility with other brands and companies, but for us, it's super important to make sure that that is carried through the entire experience.
Keeping consistency.
Absolutely. But again, we don't always get everything laid out as nicely as we would like it to the first time around, so it is a little bit.
Never goes that way.
It's not linear always. The process is never,
never linear.
All right, so we have that slot. I'm gonna start to kind of identify the other ones. I think, cool, we've addressed that person who just wants to press play. Now I think we have to think about that person who does want to browse and how are we organizing content that way. I think curation is a really big theme right now in apps and different kinds of content-based experiences. It's a way to give individual information more information, right? So if something lives within a collection or a set of something, it kind of gives a user a better or bigger reason to engage with it. So I'm just gonna say we're gonna.
Hi Anna, hi Kaya. Just saying.
Nice,
hi,
yeah.
people.
Or I'm gonna say that we're gonna have some collections on this page. Gonna make it a little bit longer here.
Yeah, pages are rarely actually that height.
Absolutely, but I do love that they already include the fold. I think it's super important to always be kind of designing around where the fold is. I mean, on mobile, people almost immediately start scrolling, but I think it's important to show like a little bit of a preview of what's below so people know for sure that you do need to scroll to see more. So we'll get to that piece in a bit. So this is flexible. I'm just gonna say maybe there's gonna be 2 collections. And then for those users that know themselves and they just want to filter, I think we need some kind of inline filter cards, or maybe, we can call them conversation cards. It's like that way where you're
Conversation
in
cards, I
line,
like
you can
that.
start to say, no, I want 10 minutes, or I want this instructor. So we can build those in as well. And what's great is that once we have defined these cards, we can start to make those components as well. So it's really easy to plug and play. Okay, so maybe we'll have 2. Maybe we'll have a time one and an instructor one, but we will get to that.
And don't forget everyone, in about 8 minutes, 7 minutes, we'll be doing Chat and Win, where you can win 100 stickers.
Awesome, yeah.
That's what the countdown is for.
All right, get in the chat. Okay, how do people feel about this very high level structure that we have going on?
Liking it.
Gives us a little something to work off of. Okay, so now to get to the fun part, let's start building out this hero. And so I think thinking about all of the elements of a hero, I think, that the image of the workout is gonna be really important, making that pretty significant on the page. So I'm just gonna start kind of drawing out what that could look like. I'm just gonna create a little rectangle. I have, let's see if I can go to my desktop, and I'm just gonna start dragging in some images that we already have. So
I love that you're able to
super
do
easy.
that too. Just
I
drag
know.
right into the rectangle.
It's super nice. You don't have to mask, you don't have to crop. We're just gonna remove that border. So we have our hero image there. I'm gonna see if we have a play button. We do, just so it's super clear what you do on this. All right, so it's starting to look like something. We have our hero. Now we have to think about metadata. I think metadata is always tricky. How much metadata you include, how much you don't include. I'm curious to also ask the chat, when you're thinking about doing a workout, what is the most important information to you? Is it the instructor? Is it the length? Is it the title? Is it the props that you need? Is it how new it is? I think it's important to think about all those different elements and what kind of hierarchy we use to communicate that.
Props.
Props are a big one for online. So I'm just gonna start listing them out, and then we can start and work backwards.
What
from
kind of
them.
things do you find to be the most important for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it is length, right? If I'm working out from home, it's not kind of this, well, maybe I have 10 minutes or maybe I have 60 minutes. Like, no, I only have 30 minutes. I also think that instructor is super important. I think naturally we have people that we connect with as instructors, whether it's, we share a similar story or a similar background. If somebody had an injury, I'm gonna want an instructor who maybe has a similar experience so they know whatever they do is safe for my injury as well.
Right.
So for me, those are the biggest ones, but it looks like someone's saying title is very important. Intensity, level, interesting. Yeah, I think it's, with metadata, it's interesting too, because you have things that are objective, like time and instructor, but you have things that are a little more subjective too. I think intensity is a little subjective from person. So that one's really interesting of how you kind of categorize that.
I'm with the level. I once went to a hot yoga class that was a little bit too far above my level. I got 10 minutes in, I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
And about 40 minutes, I'm like, just dying.
Yeah. And it's hot.
show.
Yeah, hot yoga is hard.
Too.
That's
Oh,
hard.
it's
That's really hard.
It's fun, but difficult.
Yeah, I would like to know, actually how hot, because I feel like there's also different levels of heat in those classes, and sometimes it gets.
This is why I only did one, so you can see how well I
point
went.
of one. Awesome. So I'm seeing a lot of level and kind of intensity. what kind of stretching is required.
You know, Emir brings up a good thing. Like, it's like some of what you're saying, an injury can really hurt you going back to the gym.
Right.
So having someone who understands that or has been through some kind of injury, similar injury, will help get people a bit more motivated, probably. Get
absolutely.
Back in the gym, working out.
I think there has to be a lot of trust between a client and an instructor. Yep, definitely. That's a big one as well.
Colby knows my struggles. Hot yoga. It is
Your
difficult.
very first yoga. Yeah, that's kudos. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to start putting in some of these things, and then we're going to figure out what our hierarchy is supposed to be. So I'm going to put some kind of title slot. I'm
liking that font too.
Yeah, we got Futura. That is our brand font. So
can't go wrong with Futura.
Shout out to Futura. Instructor name. We're gonna have length.
Does it require equipment? Yeah. And hi, Luis.
Yep. Props. Let's see what else. Intensity is a big one. I'm gonna say intensity / level. Are those kind of the same thing?
I wonder what they're doing in that video.
Oh, in this photo?
In that photo.
Yeah, probably doing...
Hot yoga? You think they're doing hot yoga? Probably not.
Okay.
I feel like that'd be difficult to do at home.
This is one of our workout. This is one of our...
I meant hot yoga.
Oh, hot yoga. Yeah. Maybe like you get the...
Just crank up the heat.
Hard on the electricity bill. Okay. Was there any other ones? I guess kind of prenatal, postnatal. That might be its own category. I guess category is also. Okay.
Yeah, that'll probably go in categories because it can include injuries, it can include prenatal.
Yep. Okay, so here's all of our options. So obviously we cannot leave it like this. That's not going to be very helpful to our users. But I think that, so it's sounding like intensity is a really big one for people. So maybe we need to make that one kind of, if we start to rank these things. I think props maybe is falling a little bit lower on the importance. I think that length is still pretty important. Instructor, intensity category. Okay. So let's look over here at our type and see how we can emphasize some of these things. So title I feel like is so tricky to come up with a title that is not too subjective, but is also helpful to people, and is also sustainable to create a titling system that can persist over hundreds of videos.
I think long term
so
here.
This is title's always tricky. Let's just for now, maybe there's a way that we can combine some of these things to create a titling system. So maybe there's a way that we can kind of integrate the length, body part, focus.
So Igor is asking, just curious on when you have required elements, components that need to be put in the design. Not the designing one, but a list of what info block took place. I might have to ask you to clarify that a little bit more. I do apologize for that. I think maybe he's trying to figure out, like, when you're doing info blocks, components with fill-ins. How do you do that?
Yeah, I think that we have to start to kind of define.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but we're at Chat to Win. We'll come back to that very question, but we'll be right. I think we're gonna have a little intro. Chat and Win. Welcome back. Woo, chat and win. All right, so we're going to go ahead and ask you a question. You have a question?
To ask the audience?
To ask the audience.
I'm always curious to know what people's favorite food is or their favorite thing to order at a restaurant.
What is your favorite thing to order at a restaurant? Yeah, what is your favorite thing to order at a restaurant? So chat away, guys. One lucky person is going to win 100 die-cut stickers from Sticker Mule. And yeah, what's yours?
I love finding the best ramen place. I feel like ramen right now is very hip.
So do you, when you go into the city, you're like, I'm going to look out my favorite?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I was and dumplings. I mean, tonight, I think in San Francisco, I'm going to go find some good dumplings.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of great dumplings.
Yeah.
Tacos.
Tacos is a good one,
Someone likes hippos.
Oh, yes.
I am a fan of the game, not the animal itself. Hey. Cheeseburgers.
Oh,
Justin
poke.
knows what's that. Cheeseburger. Oh, poke.
That's a good one, yeah.
Fish and chips.
Name's up.
And Carlos Ortega won. Congratulations. You have won 100 sticker mule stickers. And I wonder what they're going to make with it.
Yeah.
And for those who didn't win, we do have Adobe Live 20 where you can get 8% off of stickers. They're probably going to make some kind of food item, hopefully.
I hope so. I really hope so.
So we're back. And so back to the question we were speaking about.
Yes, making components.
Yeah, making components with, I think, text. 10 stickers for $1 is the promo. Just to clarify. But yeah, so if you make a component with fields, text you have to input later, how do you go about doing that? I think that's what he was asking. I could be wrong. You know what we could do? We could wait for him to clarify.
Okay, yeah. And we will, once this kind of gets nailed down, we will make it into a component and we can show how that gets reused too.
Show and tell.
Yes, so I like to at least kind of put a placeholder. So even if we know, say we're naming the title is like time with instructor, I like to fill it in with like the longest names or like the longest case to make sure that it will fit and look okay in the lockup, so that we're not missing something in the long run. So one of our instructors with the longest name, her name is Sarah Catherine, so I'm gonna put that in there to make sure that it will fit. I'm gonna move this down. So I'm gonna go, this is currently the size 11. I'm gonna make this the size of our body copy. So I'm just gonna click on that and it's gonna automatically apply those, that size and that font. Okay, so we're gonna say that this is kind of our naming convention for now. We can come back to this if we think that we need to rework it, but I think we have to start somewhere. So that kind of crossed off these two. So now we have these other, I do want to add posted date. I think that's an important one too.
That is important. And don't forget, everyone, to submit your portfolios so that we can do a review in about an hour. You can do that by going to the Adobe Discord channel and under the portfolio reviews channel.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
I look forward to it too.
Okay, so let's see now. So we have this, and I think I'm going to play around if we can, again, start to consolidate these maybe as like a smaller line above the title and think about what kind of sits below it. So let's fill in posted date. So we're just gonna say, we're gonna do kind of a number, convention, it's posted at the end of the year, and I'm gonna do a little dot. And then we can think about that intensity level. So
let's go max. Just like make it the
max. But do we want our levels to be like low, medium, high? Do we want it to be a visual? I feel like there's a lot of ways we could play around with that. Is it a little graph? But let's start with, we're just gonna say max intensity. Because why not?
The interesting, then you have to think about like, what is the max intensity?
Right, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah. We'll come back to that. Maybe there's opportunities on the detail page to go more in depth around some of the metadata. And we also don't have to include everything here as metadata. There is still a detail page. So I think that's important to think about too, is that we don't need to information overload everyone at this point. So I think when we think about category, I feel like prenatal and postnatal can live in a category. So whether it's like injury friendly, postnatal, prenatal, cardio, Some of our other categories are like strength conditioning, mindfulness. So we can make this a prenatal. Prenatal. So I'm gonna put our brand, so it's bar 3, prenatal workout. Okay. So this font, I'm gonna see if we can bump it down a little bit. Let's see what our mini is.
If you want more information in the portfolio view, there's a little chat button at the very top, right next to info. It should give you more details.
Okay, so all of our props are optional. So let's also just put in all of the props so that we can figure out, worst case scenario, what this is gonna look like with
What
everything.
props are we thinking?
Weights, so things from home, right? So you can have weights, you can have your mat, you can have we have a little ball that you can use. What other props do people use from home?
To work out or just in general?
Oh, to work out.
Okay.
To fill this in. We have little sliders. Okay, so we'll just put that. Whoops. Let's see, we're gonna see what this looks like as a mini also. Okay, so this is starting to look a little cleaner than it was. I wonder if we want, where do we think the category can fit in? Maybe we can fit this up here too. Do my little, oops. Oh no.
Oh, yoga block.
Okay, oh, a yoga block. Yeah, put that in here. Jump rope. We'll put it on 2 lines, just again, worst case.
Any way to make a component with area text that automatically resizes, like a chat message? For example, some messages would be 1 line, others would be 3 lines. I think it really depends on, maybe responsive resize might help. Turning that on and then just adding the lines.
And we can look at this too if we apply it to a slightly bigger iPhone, how we can do the responsive resize. Oh no, I keep doing that. Okay, so let's put prenatal up here too. Okay, so I think we're getting somewhere with our lockup, and I'm just gonna keep this for now. I think we need some maybe kind of eyebrow text around this block to kind of show what this is. So what, you know, if someone presses play on this, is this like the newest workout? Was this selected for them? So let's think about what that could look like. I'm just gonna say that this is gonna be, you know, new for you. For you. And let's see, maybe we can make this one of our subheaders. Awesome.
Well, that's cool how you already have them on the character styles set for what they are. Is that what it is? Mobile small, mobile body copy.
Yeah, so that we can start to again know when to use some of the.
I just love how organized all of this is.
Oh, I mean,
I'm a sucker for
I wouldn't
organization.
say that it is super nice to be able to design from a system that's so complete, because it already, you know, this, I feel like what we were doing was kind of operating in a lower fidelity way, but it already looks super high fidelity because it has the right fonts and, you know, symbols and everything. Okay, so this is, you know, what I'm gonna kind of call the hero. Since we are doing this card-based design, I'm gonna throw in a divider just so that we're clear that each of these slots operates as a card. So now we can turn this into a component. So I'm just gonna click and make it a component. It's gonna pop over in my component bar, and then I'm gonna call this the hero card. So to somebody's question about kind of resizing, right? So say that we, are gonna do this on a bigger phone, and we wanna still be able to use the component that we just created. So if we just drag that over and align it, we can have this responsive resize turned on. And then when I pull it over, it's not gonna mess up all of my, it's not gonna like make the font, it's really weirdly spaced. It's just gonna make this image wider. It's gonna keep the proportions of my little button the same. So it's a super easy way to test on different screen types.
That's one of my favorite features on Adobe
Yeah,
XD.
it's so nice, and it makes it really easy to, design for all different screen sizes in a really simple way and efficiently. Okay, so I'm just gonna delete that for now. Okay, how are people feeling about this hero? Would you want to press play on that?
I would. I'll be a little daunted though because of max intensity.
You selected that as the intensity. We can always change it, but there's also, maybe one of our cards is around intensity, so that if you're not feeling this one, you can go down there and kind of say what you're looking for.
I can filter it out. And
Yes, exactly.
I also don't think I have any of those things. They're optional, but
Correct.
I don't.
Correct.
Sliders I might be able to.
Yeah, get some.
That's mostly thinking the burger. Not quite.
Right. All right, so let's keep that there for now. Okay, so now as we think about our collection, also thinking about, at a high level, what we want to put in this kind of card. So I think knowing the information we have here, is there a way that we can make it so that it's not, this kind of one by view, like this hero view? Maybe we should have two work, like a side by side, like a 2x grid, so that we can show more workouts in a little card. And maybe there needs to be a little bit less information. So let's start with a title for, I don't want to do that. A title for this card. We're gonna make sure it's aligned, and we're just gonna see this.
Steven, I think you need to download the app in order to join the channel when it comes to being on the iPhone.
Okay, so we're gonna just have a name. I think since we are doing something with curation and grouping workouts, it's important to have some kind of description. I think you can have the name of the collection, but maybe people want to know a little bit more about why they would do it or engage with it. So maybe we need to add in some kind of description. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller.
It's a little scary going in blind. It's like the hot yoga thing.
Yeah, right. Would you want to know like a little bit about it before you walked in, or you like the surprise of it?
Still debating that. I'm still not sure.
Jury's still out.
I enjoyed the workout. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I just wasn't expecting that.
Right. I think, the idea of kind of preparedness is, something to think about in fitness, right? Of like how much information do we give to someone before they jump in, or is there an element of surprise that is valuable?
Which one would you do? Would you want the element of surprise, or do you want to just know everything about it before you go in?
I guess I would want to know a little bit, just so that I can be prepared to have, like, maybe I need to have water, like I need to have a towel, or I need to have different things. But I do like trying all sorts of new classes, and just, I think you get a better workout that way too sometimes when you don't know what you're gonna get.
Maybe.
Okay,
How about you guys, chat? Do you guys want to go blind or know everything about it, or just a little bit of in between?
Yeah, there's a spectrum, I guess, of how much
Maybe.
information.
There's like a small spectrum, yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna put a description. Of the collection, you will. What should we say about this collection? Should we say you will focus on? We can say areas of the body, arms, and upper back, and you will leave feeling balanced and strong. Okay, so just a little bit of placeholder text. Typically, I just throw in something to see how it will look, but obviously this will never be final copy in the experience. Okay, what are people saying?
Amir, you can definitely watch the replay of this on YouTube later, so it'll be there. And unfortunately, I'm not sure why it's not working for you, Steven, but the tag is Adobe XD, and the channel itself is #portfolio reviews, dash reviews. So hopefully you'll be able to find it. I do apologize. And then tomorrow, if you want us to review your portfolio, please submit it on the portfolio review channel within the Adobe XD Discord.
Awesome. Okay, so let's start playing around with the images. So let's try that 2x2. go back and let's pull in some other images. Pop those in. Okay.
I'm liking that guy's stash.
Yeah, he's the best. Okay, so we have our thumbnails, and now again, back to metadata. Metadata is always tricky. So now we're working with a smaller amount of space, smaller real estate. So I think we're gonna have to pare down. I don't think, since this again is kind of bubbling up into the collection, I don't think we need as much information as maybe we're showing in the hero view. But I do think, you know, things like title are still gonna be super important. So we have our naming convention, 30 minutes with Andrew. And
Is he an actual instructor?
yeah, so this is
Alright.
Andrew and Dustin, two of our great instructors. And all right, so I think that props probably can be saved at this point for the detail page. It's possible that maybe the collection will be something that already talks about props, like is it a prop list or like a travel collection, or maybe it's a, you know, a weights focused collection. But I think it's, if we have to choose something of this information to drop, I think props is probably the thing that we can drop at this point. So I still think this information is important. So let's see what happens when we try to fit it in.
It's also interesting is it brings up the importance of designers to also be copywriters in a way. I like lorem ipsum, but when you're designing something out for a client or trying to show and give things in context, adding some kind of content really helps.
Absolutely, because I think that it helps you think about, it's kind of similar of like creating the, like you don't want to work backward. You don't have to come all the way to the end and it's, you know, pixel perfect and it's like, oh, well, this copy doesn't fit right because we didn't plan
and then
for
just
it.
moves everything down.
Yeah,
or you have to
exactly. Or it's like,
redesign
oh, this
that
actually
portion.
is 3 lines. Maybe we need to rethink that information. Okay, so we'll keep, I do like to try to keep as much consistency in terms of what information gets displayed where. So say like in the hero, we have kind of this sub information above the title. I'm gonna try to keep that in this smaller lockup down here instead of switching. So people get trained on how to use this and where to look for certain information.
Training in the app and in their studio.
Exactly, yes. Okay, so let's see how this looks. Now, I think since this is a card, I think we can try and see what this would look like if we show like a 4 grid versus a 6. So one of my favorite features of XD is the repeat grid.
I love that.
So we're just gonna hit Command R and I can just pull it down and it's already showing me what that looks like. And I think since I design a lot of pages that have repeats, it's so nice to be able to just use that feature instead of having to copy and paste.
Saves a lot of time.
And this also makes it easy so we can start to see what this would look like as a 6 versus a 4. So I think it's nice to see, I think 6 is maybe getting too tall if we need to do multiple of the same cards. I'm just gonna pull that back up. And since there'll probably be more than 4 workouts in this collection, I'm just gonna add a little see all link so people can click out and see all. I think we have a link in here. Use this large link, make sure that's entered. Okay. All right, so we have this going on, and I'm gonna put that divider back in there. Okay, perfect. How are people feeling about that? So we have, you know, kind of that first way to kind of press play on something, but then if you're more of that browser discovery type, you can kind of scroll down and start exploring in here.
I love the underlying, the little line below the see all, the call to action.
Makes it easy to kind of know what to do. All right, so I'm gonna make this another component. And this one's gonna be our collection card. Okay, so now it's super easy. If say we have 2 collections that we want to talk about, we can just pop this one in there and have that as our placeholder. Okay, so we're making progress here. One thing that I like to do is kind of go into this preview so that we can start to see what it would look like on a screen. And again, understand where the fold is so that I can see, cool, like we have the hero well above the fold, that CTA is super clear, but I can also see a little bit of the, below that I am incentivized to scroll if I want to.
Show them there's a bit more down there and to continue scrolling.
Exactly. So I like to kind of pop in there. One thing that I'll also kind of mention is best practice. So sometimes when I get design, I just like copy and paste screens. And then when I go to hand off, I look at my artboards and it's like iPhone 5, like there's no meaning to the titles.
I do that all the time.
So I'm trying to be better about that. But I think if, you're getting started, it's always best practice to start naming them the right thing in the first place. You have a little bit of organization, but it happens. We get busy and we just keep going.
I always end up just going back and just naming everything and doing the cleaning off at the end. And
I do that as well. But I think there's a lot of features in XD that make it so easy to have that consistency, so it does make it easier in handoff. I think a lot of times, we have to hand off to other designers, share files, and whatever we can do to make it easy, I think is appreciated across the board.
Yeah. I'm not a fan if I get something completely disorganized. Where do I start?
I know. It's really hard to work out of somebody else's file because everybody has.
That's a nice pun. Work out what they're doing.
Unintended.
Oh, I want to hear people's workout puns.
Yeah.
Yubi's chat is so good at that. And I'm really excited. I really want to see some people's workout puns.
Yeah, I love a good pun.
Hey, Midori's from Portland.
Oh, nice. Hi, Midori. All right, so let's continue, and we're gonna work on those conversation cards. So these are for the people who, like, I already know what I want, I just want to start filtering. So we are going to start building that out. So again, I think time's super important online, is kind of that first layer of filtering. So I'm just gonna throw that title on there.
What else would you filter by? Like, what other things?
I think when we think about our metadata, I kind of feel like anything that you put in metadata should be filterable. If we're kind of giving different variations, I feel like there is a level of expectation that I can then sort by these different things. So perhaps you can filter by the intensity, the category, the props, the time, the instructor. I think there's a lot of different ways that people can refine, but I think if we're thinking about a little card in line, probably isolating it to like one or two things would make sense at this point. So we already have little buttons here for time because we have other experience, that filter by time. So I'm just gonna pop those in there. So we have 10 minute, that's the small one. Let's see how this fits.
Glad you got it working, Steven. How you was able to get it the Discord app.
Oh, good. Good.
Alex and 18307B is from Germany.
Oh,
Hi.
nice. I'm so impressed by the worldliness of this.
I know. I've always wanted to visit Germany.
It's a fun country.
Have you been there?
Been to Berlin.
Ooh.
Berlin's super fun. But there's so much more to explore. Okay, so I'm gonna see, make sure everything's aligned. All right, so we have our filter by time. I think that's pretty straightforward. We can throw another divider in there. Cool. All right, so let's put one more, and then I think we can start moving on from this. We can make this component really fast.
I'm just loving the design of that too.
I know, our
What
visual
font
design did
is-
such a good job. Kepler. So it adds a little bit of variation from the Futura. All right.
It's just a hint of old school.
Yes. Keep it.
Do you have a
keep
favorite
it
font?
classy. Oh man, a favorite font.
Did I just ask a tricky question?
I feel like my go-to is Avenir. I use Avenir a lot in the presentations that I make. I don't know why. I think it's just kind of clean and
It's just clean,
simple.
simple.
Yeah. What about you?
Helvetica New.
Okay, nice.
know,
Also classic.
Really cliche and classic, but it's a classic because it works.
Right. It just, yeah, it's timeless. Timeless font.
It's gonna be there. I wonder what the chat's favorite fonts are.
Yeah.
Because everyone has
curious.
that font they go back to.
Right. I think,
default.
your presentation go-to. It's something that I don't think about very often, what my favorite font is, but it's a good question. I should have.
It's a tricky one because it's hard to have a favorite
I know. I feel like you want to be
There's so many
different than
ones.
other designers, but
Classic work. Anthony's with me. He knows what's up. The classics for a reason.
absolutely.
I like how Future has been like a futuristic type for like 40 years, like 30, 40
Now
years.
we're here. Okay, so I'm just building out this instructor card. So I'm imagining these little circles are going to be the the image of each of our instructors. I don't have those auto-populated, so we're going to have to use our imagination.
Open Sands. Someone else is with me. Helvetica New. Old Faithful. That should be the new name of it. There should be a weight specifically called Old Faithful. And it's just regular.
Yeah, definitely. It's just the evergreen. Okay, I'm gonna put the names in here.
Acumen semi-condensed. That's pretty good.
Man, my font knowledge is not. I don't
Font
know
game.
which one that is. That could be a game that you like throw up a font and then the first person to name it gets a
Oh, that'd be kind of cool.
next
name
level.
that font.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be a very niche game
It's
for
a
a
very
very
niche
specific
game.
group of people.
Just dominated by 2 people.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess actually we could have used the R here, right? Or to pull it and repeat it.
I love that you could adjust the padding as well.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Make sure it fits. So much easier. And then is it gonna work if oh, look at that. So nice. Okay.
Just saved us a
Such a
bunch of time.
perfect application. All right, so I'm gonna call this good for now. Of course, we can always come back to it. I think, again, with the cards, we can also really easily move them around. So maybe it's like, oh, actually, I want this time refinement to live between 2 of the collections. It's easy to readjust the order. So maybe that makes more sense to have that kind of break it up a little bit.
And those are all components.
Yes, I need to did I turn that one into a component yet? I think yes, this is our time filter. And we'll make this one. I gotta put my divider in there. All right. I'm gonna make this one into the instructor. Cool, so yeah, those are all super easy to move around and repeat. Okay, how's everybody feeling about this so far?
I'm digging it.
Supports our different kinds of users. I feel like it addresses
Yeah.
timeliness too. If you just want to jump into something, you can like press play there, press play on any of these.
So hitting the filter will just give you a bunch of things within 30 minutes. And just
Exactly,
jump
kind of
right
more
in.
like that library view of all of our 30-minute workouts, which would probably be using this lockup here of the 2x2 grid. Awesome. All right, so let's start thinking about our detail page. So we about have a half hour left, is that
Yeah,
right?
so we have about a half hour till we do portfolio reviews. So again, send those over and we would love to take a look at them. And
Awesome.
I'm always impressed by the amount of creativity that goes into these.
Yeah, no, I'm so
Focus.
excited. It's always fun to see what's happening in the community. Okay, so we're gonna start building out the detail page. So put our nav back in there. We don't need this little line because we're no longer on the Discover tab. So I think, I think sometimes too, like nav design is always really interesting. I feel like that actually sometimes becomes the last thing that you create because it's like, well, sometimes you don't know what all the key pages of your experience are going to be until you start designing them all, and then it's like, well, how do we fit that all into the nav? It's kind of like a chicken and the egg situation. But I think having a system that allows for flexibility in the nav is important. So like we went icon based to save space, right? Because if we list out filters or my favorites or some of these other pages, it might not all fit on mobile screens.
Yeah, I rarely see that these days.
Which one?
I mean, the full nav
Oh,
on top for a mobile.
Yeah.
It's very cluttered.
I think we wanted to keep parity between desktop and mobile web. So having that nav on the top versus on the footer is kind of the direction.
You know, you brought up an interesting topic too. When you're designing something out, do you ever do some kind of like, not system design, but system flow to have an idea of what things you will be designing? You did something similar here, but
yeah, I try to kind of map out. So I do try to map out the key pages of the experience. So say like in this experience, we're gonna have the Discover tab. Whatever lives as like my favorites is gonna be a key page. That filter page. What happens when you click a see all? Is that like a collection hero page? What is the filter results? So I try to map out all of the different pages. And then since I have decided to go with this card-based design of creating that card system as well, because I don't want to end up with a experience that has like 50 different card designs. The whole point of the card design is to have like repeatedness across the experience. So I try to kind of map those out at a high level and work backwards from that. But sometimes we do find once we're already pretty far down that, oh, we actually need another page for something that we hadn't originally accounted for, but at least then we have a structure for, you know, the other pages that we can work off of.
like a place to start. And yeah, I mean, that stuff always creeps up, right?
Totally.
When you're building something out and, oh, we forgot that.
Yeah, it's like these see all. It's like, oh yeah, that does need to go somewhere.
Because you just see it so often, you don't even think about that.
Right.
Like, it's a system flow tends to help with that. But I am interested to know how the chat goes about it.
Yeah.
Do you guys do that, or do you just wing it and Wild West it?
Yeah.
Go in and
I
design
love
it.
to know other approaches. I think it's helpful to, like with something like this that is so content driven, that like once you have nailed down your lock, like for us, the key the video is the content, right? So there's only so many variations. You're gonna have like the hero kind of model and then this like 2x model. So having that really locked down makes it easier to kind of build out other pages as well. So you almost have mini components within a bigger component.
It's the atomic modeling design, is that what it was?
Okay.
It's like you have like these molecules.
Okay, yeah, so it's like
atoms.
symbols and then builds a component, which builds a pattern, which builds a page.
Yeah, I think it's like icons and then into other smaller components. I don't remember all of it.
Yeah, but it makes sense. You have to kind of work backwards from something.
It's components within components within components.
Right.
To make ones.
Right, yeah. So I think yes, if you can get that granular, then it does make it super easy. I don't always.
I don't either.
Sometimes it comes in the end. It's like,
I preach
oh yeah,
it, but I
now I
always
can
do
do
it.
it. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's hard. It's hard to, to do everything like exactly in order.
And then you try and then things happen.
Right. Requirements
just
change and, we have to, but flexibility, I think, as a principle of any design is super important, that it's not like, okay, this is the only way we can ever have a title. That has to, what's the flexibility in the design as things evolve is super important to account for. What are people saying?
Tomorrow there's a user flow with all the features listed out. I like you doing that way as well. Doesn't always happen, but
right. Or at least trying to map out your use cases and your edge cases. Edge cases always creep in too. That's always a tricky one to.
Such as.
Oh, I mean, it's like someone's trying to do something super obscure that you hadn't accounted for as like a main use case.
Yeah, that's what you were saying.
I'm trying.
Like, how do you balance that? Do you just account for it and spend the time?
Yeah, I mean, I think
How much time?
Right. I mean, so I think, yeah, edge cases are super interesting because I think there's a lot of hesitation to design for them because it's like, well, it's not the majority, but then you're excluding a lot of people in that thinking. And I think for me too, like inclusive design is really important because I think you have to think about everyone in what
Absolutely.
you're designing for and not just the majority. So spending time on those edge cases is really important to build into the process. And I think prototypes help too, that you're uncovering things of like, oh yeah, might be something that somebody does that I hadn't accounted for.
And usability test really shows that off.
Mm-hmm.
Giving a very simple task to do and just seeing them go about and like, oh, I know how to account for that.
Right, exactly.
Always something surprising always comes up with
Yeah,
this.
because I think like as designers we get so invested and we're super clear on what's going on.
Exactly,
but to
and you know
somebody
what to
else-
do.
Right.
So you're like,
Yep, you
you
click
tell
here, you
them
click here.
to
Exactly.
filter for something like, no, it's right there.
Right,
But you can't say anything.
right,
You can't say anything.
exactly. Yes, that's so important as part of the process. Okay, so over to the detail page. So say someone clicks on this first video, what are we gonna see here? So I think we still need that hero image. I'm always afraid, if I copy this, is it gonna copy the whole component? Is it gonna be okay? Okay. All right, so we have the detail page. So I think we can think about what information do we need to repeat from here and what is the supplementary information that we need. So title, obviously is still gonna be really important. I think obviously the sub information, but I think there is, oh, I forgot to put my little grids here.
And now, is that the normal padding on an iPhone?
This is, yeah, so this is what we kind of designed for in our pages. Pop that in there.
Without 10 pixel, is that what it is? Padding?
So I try to do percentage based
Oh.
so that it's more responsive. But in my head, I'm just thinking 10 pixels, so that's what I'm putting. But it is based on a percentage that we've kind of calculated for the rest of the system so that we can, it's not 10 pixels on like an iPad. It will respond to them, yeah.
It's harder to remember that in percentages.
I know, because it's not always, yes, 10 is just easy to.
Wasn't great at math, so I just do the simple thing.
I know, it's hard. Hard to translate it all. Okay. Where were we going with this?
I'm with you, Tamara. It is important to also do research on your competitors.
Yep.
Because a lot of those things have conventions people are used to.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think especially like when we talk about metadata, I think there is an expectation in fitness for different pieces of information. And so, yes, I agree. Loving to look at other competitors to see what their hierarchy is, what their, most important things. I think there is a brand element of what we want to emphasize or de-emphasize, but it is like a good way to start to then see like what the whole bucket of options are and then see what makes sense for us.
Right. So, like, if I were to go on this app or do a competitor, I would know there are certain things I'm going to be used to for all these fitness apps, as opposed to using a restaurant to be your competitive thing. It can be very challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I think it's an opportunity on the detail page to explain a little bit more about the instructor. Again, I think the instructor is super important so that I can start to tell, like, is this the right person for me? What am I gonna get out of this? So maybe we can have even her little face there. We're just gonna, I, again, don't have her. I guess I could pull this in there.
You can try it.
Okay.
Works.
Whoops. We're just gonna make this bigger so that she is the focus.
Can't even tell it's the same photo.
Yeah, different context. Awesome. All right, so instructor. We're gonna again put in that super long name. I don't think this needs to be quite so large. Bump it down, and then.
What do you think is the smallest font you can use, and what is the optimal font for mobile?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I tend to not go below, 9 is like very, very mini. I think that's a little bit too small. I think 11 really is like the smallest. I try to use 15 as a base. Because I think like when you're designing, you're like, this is huge. But when I start to then look at it on a screen, like we're even seeing that this is getting pretty small. I mean, obviously this is a little bit smaller, but I do think it's always best practice to be comparing it on your phone. Like put your designs on a device to really see how it looks on the screen, what that context is. Because things that we think are reasonable as we're designing get super tiny. Same thing with icons. Like sometimes they get pushed really, really little. So I think that's a good process of always comparing it on a device, but I would say 9 is like the very smallest.
Even then, I think that's really
it's too
pushing
small.
it.
Yeah,
because
I
we're
think
looking at it on this large laptop.
Yep.
And Adobe XD does allow you to view it on your phone. I think it's really important. I have terrible eyesight, so I tend to try to like look at it using my glasses, without my glasses a bit. Because like you were saying earlier too, account for those edge cases for people who may have accessibility issues, which is something I think is really important to account for too. So testing things out on the actual phone helps a lot.
Absolutely, and I think looking at it on the smallest phone too, like I have a Plus, so when I look at it, I'm like, oh yeah, it looks fine.
I do too.
But then it's like you put it on the like these smaller phones and it's teeny tiny. So
Which is why you did the 5 first. So
exactly.
that was really smart.
Yeah, so I think 11 is probably, I mean, if you have to go really small for something, very least 9, but I would say 11 is probably the smallest that we go in our system.
Tomorrow uses 14.
As the smallest?
As the smallest
Interesting.
font size.
Yeah.
I can get behind that.
Yeah. It was interesting for a while, like the phones went towards like being really big and now they're kind of getting smaller again. So it's like, what direction are we going?
I mean, I really don't enjoy carrying around like a huge phone and then in my pocket.
Right, it's hard for the pocket situation, yeah. But I do love my Plus. It's hard now to go back to smaller. It looks really small.
I like how they're getting a little, the bevel is getting enveloped the screen.
Right.
And getting a little thinner.
Yeah.
It's hitting that nice sweet spot.
Yeah, the whole screen is accounted for. Okay, so we're just gonna add a little bit of information about her. Do you think at this point that we need a lot of information about the instructor, or do you think that needs to live kind of on its own page as like an instructor page?
For myself, if I were to go into this application and hit that page, I would want to know more about the actual class
versus
and instructor later. Because if I'm going to a class at a gym, I don't really care as much about the instructor, at least for myself. I don't really care as much about what the instructor is done. Just, I'm going to go do yoga. All right, cool. What I want to know more about the yoga class.
Totally, I think that makes sense. So I think with that, we can maybe just make her name a link, and that links out to kind of her page, so that if somebody wants more information, they can get it.
How do you design for a device you don't own? Because someone was asking, i.e. iPhone or Android.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I think some companies have access to like a device kind of library where you can take phones and borrow them. I just have to ask around to see if other people in the office have different devices. But I think it is a good question.
For those without access to that, how do you think they should go do it? Personally, there's mock-ups out there. There are, if you go to Google Material Designs, they have those 2 instructions and ways to design for it, as well as just blanket designs.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you go and preview things, like it does give you a good sense. I mean, you have to use your imagination a little bit, but at least it does give you the right proportions to kind of gauge how it will look on a device.
And there's also, again, going back to the material design, they have, at least for the iPhone, iOS stuff, they have the little notch you can place on top of the iPhone.
Okay.
To have a better sense of how it's going to look with that little notch. Because that notch always messes
Right,
up.
on the new ones. Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I think it's hard to account for all the different.
From the 5 all the way to 11.
Yeah, and on different.
There's a breaking point.
Absolutely. But I think that's part of thinking about edge cases too, right? Like maybe at this point in time, having a 5 is more of an edge case than it used to. I mean, maybe the percentage is smaller, but I think it's still important to.
But then that goes with your personas or the people, your audience.
Right, absolutely.
Would they normally have a 5 going into this, or would they be more inclined to have the newer models? It's a lot of research. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the same thing happens on desktop too, is like you can design for a computer screen, but then what happens when that gets projected on like a really big TV or something? How does that respond? And what is the rules for the margins?
So many platforms.
There's no end to all the variation.
There's no end to designing.
And now we have a lot of apps on TVs that are popping up, so I think designing for a TV is totally different.
That's true, especially for a fitness app, right?
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with the world of designing for TVs, but it's a whole nother.
Seems really, really cool. Because you have to design for 4 feet.
Right,
at
yeah,
least.
exactly.
Or 10 feet, it was 10 feet,
10
right?
feet design,
10
I think.
feet design.
Yeah, and then it's like you use a remote to navigate versus touch. So
And nowadays it's like a pointer too.
Right, yeah, no, can't keep up with all the things.
You could do a Cornelian, just buy everything.
Sure, why not? Yeah.
Props to you.
Design for all. Okay. All right, so we're gonna pick up the pace. Okay, so the description of the workout, I think, as you were saying, is super important. So I think, having maybe there's a convention of like, today you will blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna make it feeling based again. I'm just gonna pop this over for now.
I do often feel about the description.
Do you have a creative description to add? Okay. All right, so that's good for now. I think it's important too that we don't want it to look exactly the same as it did on the previous page, because like this is a different page, and so maybe this is too similar, this exact same lockup. So let's see.
Are you afraid that they won't notice this is a different page?
Yeah, I think I would want the pattern to be slightly different, because the expectation on this page is a little bit different than the expectation on this page. So maybe we can actually bump up the title a little bit. That's an 18, and we're gonna keep the instructor information. I'm just gonna group this. Okay, and put that description. The description probably could live above the instructor, because that's gonna be more important, and maybe we can. So I think something interesting on the detail page too is like, do we want this to be the end of the path, or do we want there to be opportunities for people to continue browsing from here? So one thing that maybe we can explore is like little inline filter buttons that can help. It's like, okay, maybe this wasn't the workout for me, but can I then go see other 30-minute workouts or like other
like a similar
workouts?
listing, like similar
Yeah,
things below.
exactly. So I think we have something similar like that. We have these little pill buttons, these little pill tags.
I love those.
So fun. I love they're just like very inviting, right? You just wanna click it. Okay, so maybe we can reuse this information and put it in these pills so that we don't have to just
make it visually interesting. Definitely gravitates the eye.
So we're gonna say that max, we're still with the max intensity.
Behance. Behance a lot of good inspirations for UI design. In terms of visuals, they're pretty good. What else UI design inspiration? Pinterest.
Yeah, Pinterest is good. There was, what's it called? There was a website that it's like good. I think it's even called like GoodUI or something.com, and you can kind of search by different categories. But yeah, I do go to Pinterest a lot.
I don't know where else the people in the chat go to. Because I go to things like Behance, Pinterest. I surprisingly use magazines sometimes to look at the way they do layouts for content and stuff.
I think, print inspiration. It's like becoming a lost art almost sometimes. Everything's digital, but I do enjoy
magazines.
Looking at,
Because they have to keep our attention for a certain amount of time and catch your eye to read that article.
Right.
Kind of almost the same kind of ideas.
I actually think like exhibit design's really interesting, like how museums lay out an exhibit.
Oh, interesting.
Because there's like the focus on like there's a brand, I feel like, almost to an exhibit, and how they have their wayfinding and like the type that they use to describe like what the exhibit's about. I think that's
also direction, because you're directing them in a certain way.
Exactly, right, and what that progress is like.
Yeah. Design is everywhere.
Can't escape it. Okay. All right, almost done.
You should be able to find a lot of the shortcuts on the Adobe XD page, or if you just Google Adobe XD shortcuts, you should be able to find a lot of those.
Okay, so
we have 8 minutes before the submission deadline for portfolios. So don't forget to send those over. About information sent. I haven't heard of that term.
Information sent? Oh.
Have you?
No. What does that mean?
I don't know. Travis, can you tell us? It sounds secretive.
Yeah.
Like a secret agent thing.
Right. The scent. It's not something you think about as often in the digital world.
James Bond new movie, Information Sent.
Alrighty. Okay, so we have our detail page starting to come together. I'm gonna keep that play button. I think it's interesting to think about how we're motivating people, or like, is there opportunities to have kind of a intention or a quote that kind of sets the mood of the workout before somebody presses play? So maybe that needs to be a card in the experience. I kind of want to use the Kepler. I feel like that's a fun editorial kind of font.
Going with the magazine idea.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. So, is this the right one?
I like food.
Man, I'm not good at coming up with a quote on the fly. What's a quote that might inspire you to press play on a workout?
Oh man, putting me on the spot.
Or the audience. Let's throw it on the chat.
Audience. Think of a quote to inspire you to work out. I'm curious what they're going to bring out.
I know. I'm going to feel really motivated by that.
So think about like foods. So like the smell directs you usually to the food. So information links need to be leading. Oh, so I guess it's just how do you lead a user to a direction you want them to, or a call to action, I suppose, without it feeling too directive.
Yeah, right. Keeping kind of the door open on multiple different paths. Yeah, I think that's super interesting. I mean, I think it's interesting in like as you're designing something, if there is a singular path, or do you not actually want to like direct someone just one way? Like if it's browse based.
Yeah.
How far do you want to lead them?
Yeah, you don't want to railroad them, but I'll have to take a look at that article a little later. But that's tough. I think I wish I could give them a more direct answer, but I can't. I mean, in a way, the hero page is that.
Right. I mean, I think having like super clear CTAs and thinking about, because typically I feel like if you create like a system of CTAs, you have a primary, you have a secondary, maybe you have a tertiary button, you have links, like thinking about when you would use a primary button over a secondary button, because I feel like there's kind of
don't wish for it, work for it.
Okay, that's great.
I like this guy's quotes.
We'll put that in there.
I just hope it wasn't from anyone bad.
Yeah. We'll just take it as a positive motivation.
You should probably put Cornelian.
Oh yeah, we got to quote who our who our author is. Perfect. Yeah, that CTA system
I would say,
is important, because I don't think you want to have a page that has like 5 primary CTAs on it, right? Thinking about,
because then it becomes unfocused, muddled,
you're
cluttered.
asking them to do a lot of different things. So I think thinking through what is clickable and, you know, what are the different icons or buttons or links that you're using in your system is one way to think about that. You're worth it. I love that one too.
Yeah, because on a mobile, the first thing you see will be the hero image, and then your eye, just because I think you're used to it on the mobile, would direct down. So that first thing after the hero image is what's going to be the main lean factor.
And I think too, like if we think about this page, we're only using this play button once, right? We're not putting that play button on all of the thumbnails, because I think would be a little competing of information, so that does hone in a little bit too of that immediate thing to engage with. Okay, how are we doing? I got
3 minutes.
3 minutes left.
No
Awesome.
pressure.
We gotta wrap it up really fast. Okay, so we got our motivation, we got other ways to explore, we have a description of the workout. Ultimately, we want them to press play, so we don't want this page to be too much information. And, you know, another thing that's interesting with online workouts is like the element of community. How much community do you want to bring in? Like, do you want to know who else is working out today? Or do you want to be able to chat with each other? I think that there's probably a segment of users who prefer to work out online so that they're not in a physical studio with other people. But how do you bring like that studio environment online is interesting to think about.
The sense of community, like
sense of
like
community.
classes.
So do we want to have a comment board? Or kind of a way to show who else is working out right now. I think it's...
Are those people within your friend group or people around you?
Right. I mean, it could be just the people who are working out right now. So having that sense of like, I'm not the only one who's working out, that at least like I don't have to know exactly who they are, but there's other people kind of supporting me in this. Or I'm not the only one working out at 4 o'clock in the morning, but there's someone else.
Do you do that?
Not quite 4 o'clock in the morning. That's it.
You could have just like, I do
Like, oh
every
yes,
day.
absolutely.
I am disciplined like
6 a.m. is as early as it gets. But no, we do know there are a lot of users that do work out at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I think having that.
really impressed.
Yeah, gotta pack it in. Okay, so let's quickly, we'll just pop something in here for community, and then we're gonna wrap it up for today. Something that I think about a lot is the idea of like community, the idea that like if the community says that this is challenging or sweaty or hard, there might be more value in that than what we're telling the user.
Oh, interesting.
So is there a way to like bubble up what the community is saying about this workout? So maybe we can...
So like things like a review?
Almost, but maybe it's like, is there a way that we can pull out some of the top words that we see associated with this workout, where it is like sweaty, challenging? Because when we think about these subjective things like intensity level or challenge level, are we really the authority on that, or should the community kind of upvote what they're feeling in these workouts?
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Almost like a word wall.
Yeah, like a word cloud. That could be interesting. A word wall, I like that.
I put it barrier instead of like a word cloud.
Okay. So let's just throw some words in there, and then we're gonna call it good for the day. So it was sweaty. It was gonna be sweaty workout. And maybe we can do kind of that word cloud style where some of the words get bigger than others. Challenging.
You got 5 seconds.
Okay, I'll put one more word.
I think we mostly get the idea.
Yeah, great. Awesome.
Challenging, hard, sweaty.
Yeah,
It's like a thesaurus.
it is, right. If you also need another reason to come.
All right, guys, it's the portfolio deadline. So now we're going to stop for a moment, or stop for for today, and we're going to be looking at portfolios.
Awesome.
I'm excited to check it out. I'm going to go ahead and bring up a few. We're in a spaceship.
Awesome. I love being in a spaceship.
I really enjoy space. There's a lot of it out there. But welcome back, and we're going to be taking a look at some portfolios. I have one queued up with Tamara. Thank you for submitting your portfolio. And we're going to take a look at this. I wonder if there's anything in particular she wants us to look at.
Yeah, she's got a lot of great work.
She has a lot of great work. I'm loving this look right here. It's like it is a VR game.
Oh, cool.
Have you ever had a chance to play VR yet?
I haven't.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah, I feel like it's a whole nother world.
Especially for design. Case study 6, I suppose. Let's go do the ebook.
Okay, let's do it.
Oh, Santashi knows we normally have helmets, so.
Oh,
And,
right. We missed our opportunity.
But this is like new space age rocket, so we don't need it right now.
Right.
Yeah.
We're in the future.
It's all fully pressurized. We're all good. It's the future. Okay, so how to maximize your ROI with virtual reality. Okay, introduction. This. Virtual care at 50 Shade, I think is what she's requested. Let's try to find them. 50 Shades Darker.
Is that first?
Oh, virtual clinic? I think that's what she's referring to. Let's go with that. Virtual clinic.
Awesome.
Oh, this looks good.
Yeah. No, so
Clean. I love how here it immediately tells me what she was working in.
Yep.
So I don't have to like go in there and try to find it.
Yeah, I love that it's just like a quick summary right away, so I know what I'm getting into. And,
Little preview.
oh, she's got the design system up. That's awesome. Different types.
4.
Love the icon system.
Icons are
Those are so fun.
deceptively
Yeah.
difficult to do.
Oh, so yeah. It's always interesting to like figure out how you can communicate a lot of information in such a small space
Yeah,
and how to like
absolutely.
have consistency, but I feel like the language across even the icon system is super consistent.
And I love the funness she's added to these,
Yeah.
the elements.
like
They
them-
convey pretty well. Like for instance here, I think that's lotion or this hair follicle. But it is interesting. You got to convey something to strip it down to its basic elements.
And I think it gets challenging too when you have a large icon system because you need each one to be very specific about what it's communicating.
Yes, and consistent with the brand and look that you've already established.
Absolutely.
There's so much to. I could make an entire like
Unpack all
on a
of
stream
that.
when I'm just unpacking icons and stuff. It's really hard.
Yeah.
So it's always good to see when
Yeah,
it's
but
done
these
well.
are super clean and clear.
Super clean. I love
So
the look.
this is the landing page, I'm assuming.
A desktop landing page.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, desktop up there. I love how it's giving me immediate information.
Yeah, I always feel like bringing icons into kind of like a breakdown of how something works is super great because I feel like sometimes when we see how it works, it's like so text heavy, but I think humans are so visually driven of having just everything live in the visual system is great.
Oh, there we go. So that works a little better. Yeah, having those icons definitely help break things up a bit. You know, adding things in cards tends to help. Like you said, we are very visual.
And I feel like having, again, like this is a long page, and so you do want to incentivize people to scroll, of not having it be like so segmented that it feels like the landing page is only one slot that you're scrolling through and exploring.
People love EQ here. Okay, components. I think the one thing I would say is while like the color palette and the graying of the text, I can see it being a little difficult for some people to read it.
Yeah.
If it's a healthcare thing, I'm thinking more seniors might find a little bit hard to read.
Yep.
Even myself right now, I'm finding a little bit. So I can't not read it, but I can see myself being able to.
Yeah, I think having that higher contrast maybe could help make it
just a little bit.
pop.
It looks really good so far.
Super clear. Let's see. So this one is the secondary level. Maybe if I clicked from the pricing slot on the first page.
Request a demo. Pricing. Individual pricing.
I like that if you scroll the kind of below that one, sorry, the why use section.
Good.
Scroll down.
Oh,
It's nice to kind of see like those really short key pieces of information right away, so it's not like I have to read a ton. I think with landing pages, it's such a balance of how much text we use to communicate things and how like short, briefly we can
convey the information. Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of the time when people come into these websites, at first they do a lot more glancing or just quick familiarize themselves with the landscape and then start going into the content if that kind of if they want to see that. If they want to go more in depth. Like, oh yeah, this kind of is look what I'm looking for.
Right.
And then
they can drill
deeper.
in. Absolutely.
But she did an amazing job.
Yeah.
Here you go.
It's,
So see this color, I think works a lot better.
yeah, than like the secondary gray.
Yeah, as opposed to the secondary gray or things like this. Is there anything in particular you want us to take a look at? Because honestly, this looks really good.
Yeah, super clean.
I think also with this, if she starts building this out for like a mobile device, with things like these cards and these things already into these smaller components that she's already developed out.
Right.
She'll make it really easy to do that.
Yeah, no, I think having that card system is awesome for repeatability. Yeah,
I love
it looks
it.
great.
This looks great.
It looks super consistent with the brand too.
Yeah, everything is very consistent. Okay. If you have anything in particular for us to look at, to comment on in this, just let us know. Otherwise, we're gonna move forward. Good job.
Yeah, awesome work.
Okay. Colby,
Visual
designer, based out of Florida.
Awesome.
Oh, the mobile version is down. Real quick, sorry, Colby.
sweet.
We'll do real.
Oh, nice.
She thought of everything.
Yeah, just many steps ahead. Yeah, no, it's nice too that there's like a lot of parity between the desktop experience and the mobile experience. Because I would imagine too, like people are coming back to this on different devices, and so making sure that it's clear on both is great.
That lady looks really happy.
Just happy to solve your problems.
This is very thorough. She probably did a system flow. Cool.
I think the only thing is it could be helpful to see like how it lays out as a flow so that it's clear of like which pages are clicking out to which pages. Like because I think these are presented very separately, so it is a little bit hard to know.
So you're hoping
what the
to
sequence
see this more like
is.
grouped up?
Or just like as a user flow would be helpful.
About us page and where those things would go to. I see what you're saying. In terms of a portfolio, this is really good. I guess one thing I would add, if you do it, because if people would tend to also look at what your design thinking was.
Yeah, and kind of like what the user problem was.
What the user problem was. Like visually, this looks amazing.
Yep.
And I love it. And if I was to go in just to see what your designs look like, this looks great. And I know that you can probably do the visuals and stuff, but you can do the UX things. People tend to look what your design thinking, your methodologies. Why did you decide to do that way? What did you contribute? If this is a team, just to know a little bit more as to why you did these things.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's tricky sometimes because we do have to deal with NDAs of like how much information we can show. But I definitely agree of like any of that process work, I think is helpful to see like where you started and kind of how you ended.
Absolutely.
In this place.
Sketches help. Just reading light research.
Even, yeah, if there was any kind of usability research or understanding what areas got changed based on user feedback.
Yeah, absolutely, because things always change with user feedback. And one of the biggest questions you'll probably always get asked if you go to interviews or you're trying to implement a design is why? Why do you want to do that? And that's probably the best way to start and show that off. For example, why did you decide to put how it works first?
Right.
Or just things like that. So just adding something to get us into your mindset.
Or knowing too a little bit about the audience of who we're designing for. And then I think if there's opportunity to, I know that again, it rolls up under NDAs, but if there's an outcome or like the impact of the experience to know how it landed in the real world is super helpful to know too.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Okay, let's go to our next one. Good job tomorrow.
Yeah,
Thank you for
awesome job.
submitting your portfolio. Let's try hurricane or doggy data.
I feel like the dog one.
Dog one. Dogs.
I already love the colors and the illustrations.
I'm liking the colors.
So cute. Oh, it's also fitness. Is it a dog fitness app?
Looks like it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay. This is a very niche one. But you know, dogs gotta work out too.
Yep.
Those kibbles and bits back on the pounds.
Gotta watch those treats.
If you don't watch them, they'll watch you.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
spots get bigger.
So we have a clear font. Okay. What type we're using.
I like the types. They're nice.
I'm curious to understand. I think it's, and usually see 3 different types of kind of what the decision around that is.
Yeah, what the hierarchy is. I would assume Avenir would be like the body,
Yeah.
and these 2 would just be titles, like it like states here.
Yep.
Health, location, exercise, sleep, icons. I'm assuming these could be a little bit more clear, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if there's kind of like a onboarding experience as part of it too.
Yeah.
Or if those categories on the activity, this kind of landing page bubble up into those icons, maybe?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay. Well, that's it.
Oh,
So we
okay.
won't see.
Got it. Okay.
But these are kind of cool. I wish he had went ahead and added these in there as well
Yep.
and expanded that because these look really cool.
Yep.
I'm really interested in this.
Yep. Yeah, because I feel like this one too could really benefit from like that click-through flow to understand like what happens when you click on the different icons in the nav and how does that, because I imagine like this health one, maybe that's the heart.
This one right here, this heart would be.
And I think with the nav too, understanding if there's a active state in the nav of like your art, you're on a certain page.
Yeah.
Could help.
So I think that's like the biggest thing is the fact that we're guessing. It would be nice for us to know what things we correlate to. I like the design. I think it's fun. Like a doggy data should probably be a dog fitness app. Because you have to know your audience. You can't make this super serious.
Right. I think the playful aspect makes a lot of
really
sense.
helps. It's really cool. All right.
Awesome.
Let's do another one. Let's go ahead and let's do Quasart. Okay. Personal branding.
Graphic design.
Seeing if there's any UX in particular. Well, they look nice. Not seeing a lot of UX.
Yeah. These look like branding projects.
It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can't really give much feedback here, though.
Mm-hmm. Logo, brand.
Well, if he's in the chat, you can let us know which one to take a look at. Otherwise, we're going to move forward. They look great. Good job. Cool. So, XD Daily Creative Challenge, website concepts.
Cool.
Take a look at website concepts. All right. Thank you for submitting. Ninja Project.
So these are all, okay, collection of landing pages. Maybe a little description around kind of the objective of each landing page could be a little bit helpful, or like what the brand is trying, because this one...
It looks cool. I just don't know what's the purpose.
Right. Is it kind of e-commerce, or is it more information?
Steven is asking, is there an example of a click-through?
Oh, I think just laying it out. So if you go into like one of my projects towards the end, they usually have like 5 mobile screens, and it has like a
Do you
little...
want to do a quick look at it?
Quick look. You can click this onboarding one. So just something more kind of like the flow. This is maybe overkill, but it at least shows like the path that a user would take and what those key pages are. So maybe this one's better. Whoops. Of just showing like, cool, this is the search page, this is the landing page, just so it's super clear of how
Be
someone
more
progresses.
organized to know the patterns or the flow you'll be going through.
Yep. So then it's clear of like, cool, you got to this page because you came off of a different page. I think shows like the progression.
When's the next portfolio review? I think it might be Wednesday. I can't be 100% sure. Hopefully someone in chat. Next Monday. It'll be next Monday. Yeah. So that would be helpful. Let's go back. I'm digging those shoes.
Yeah.
This
super
looks nice.
fun.
Visually, this looks great.
Yeah, I love how they're kind of pulling the colors from the shoes, so it really just unifies the whole thing really nicely.
I find it interesting the way it's organized, though, because there's the menu and the navigation on the left, isolated left, and then there's like an add-on photo to the right.
Yep.
So I can see this being easily redesigned for mobile by just removing that kind of, removing this area, and just shortening it.
Yeah, so this one does look like an e-commerce because there's an add to cart button. I think for e-commerce, have to think about like the metadata again, right? Like what's the price of the shoe? How do I select the size of the shoe? Are there different colors? I think designing like a landing page is different than kind of designing like that e-commerce page.
Yeah, like I would love to see a little cart icon.
Yep.
Because I'm just so used to that. I like the call to action here. Scroll down.
Oh, okay.
Overall, visually looks nice. I think the UX could use a little work.
Yeah, I think something like this is really helpful to think about that flow. Like when you're mapping out, like, cool, what happens if somebody adds to cart? What information do they need to add to cart? And how do they progress through that?
Yeah. And all that. Let's move on. See another one. And I think it might have been one earlier. Let's go with. Oh, Dave.
Awesome.
So practicing with concepts. Yeah, I mean that's
awesome.
that was great. I think it looks good. But definitely take a look at those competing stores and seeing how they do it and what are things people are normally used to. Looks like the cart. going through a flow tends to help too.
And I think it depends too, like if you want to emphasize more on the UX side, or like, because I feel like this is so strong in like visual branding and identity, of kind of which you want to focus on first.
That's true. So I guess maybe also adding context around it to let us know visuals. I was not focusing on the UX, but just the way it looks. Maybe even, I don't know what else is there. UX, UI, visuals, icons, branding.
Or is it more like motion, interaction? I feel like, there's a lot to, just to set the context of the portfolio, what to focus on.
Just letting us know what you were aiming for, who you might be aiming this for. I wouldn't have thought you were a beginner either.
No,
This looks
strong.
good. This looks really strong. Let's see. Is there anything else? Oh, there's more.
There's more.
Sorry.
Ooh, fun.
I love
From
this.
Mars. Yeah, so fun.
Are you ready for Mars?
Always.
This has me pumped up.
I want to press launch.
I definitely. So this is exactly what I was talking about. This is the UX on this is great because I immediately know it's just directing me to a call to action, hit launch. I could go to about to know a bit more about this. Yeah, tickets. In fact, it's very simple.
Yeah, I feel like this is following that information set that we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier, kind of. Where
Hey,
it's like
nice way to
super
bring
well
it back.
practice my lingo. Super clear of like you are specifically driving someone to do something. It's not. There's no other competing information.
No, it's very simple, and the way you have this little photo here incentivizes me to scroll down as well.
Yep.
So you kind of removes that button or text to say scroll down.
Yeah. I think there's ways to design the page so we don't need to have like such explicit calls to action on the page.
And Dave, if you're learning UX, we did kick off our daily creative challenges, one specifically for Adobe XD, and if you go on there, it tends to give you a little help, like a little, I wouldn't say tutorial, but a little prompt to try to learn. And they're small projects, a few hours, and they kind of teach you Adobe XD and kind of push you to kind of learn a bit more about UX as well. But it looks good. It's really
There's good variety
look at that.
in context. Oh, koalas. I love koalas.
What are your favorite animals?
My spirit animal is a koala.
Your spirit animal is a koala?
So it's meant to be. Let's see. Get into welcome. So this one would be help to have a little more context of what we are signing up for.
Especially when it comes to putting personal information, it's really important to let a person know what they're signing up for.
Yeah, and what the value is to that user.
Yeah. Because there's a trade-off. Someone giving, it's currency.
And I
Information's
think
currency.
we have to think about kind of the order of operations too, right? Like what kind of information is needed up front before we can gather that. So maybe it makes sense more to have information collection at like the bottom of the page or like interspersed in the other content of the page instead of right away, unless this is like secondary to another page.
Yeah, which is something I think we mentioned earlier that we should probably give us more context for that.
Definitely.
Because when you're asking for something like this, you have to lead them towards it, and from the very beginning, start creating a sense of trust.
Yep. Absolutely. And be clear about what the outcome is.
And here, watch now is really, really. I would love to know what I would be watching. It's blurred out.
Or if that needs to be bumped up higher.
I don't think you even need to put the text either. People are pretty receptive to the play button.
Just an icon.
Similar to what we saw earlier.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that the nav is on the I'm assuming this is desktop. I'm not as 100% sure.
So I think we're just about out of time. We have about a minute left. So I just want to say thank you for everyone who submitted their portfolios. I know it's a bit of a daunting task, but we love to see them, and we're only here to help. And tomorrow we'll be doing the Daily Creative Challenge. I'll take a look at that. It just kicked off this week with Julian. And yeah, we'll be back here tomorrow with Claire going over the second day of the project. So we hope to see you back, and we're excited to stream tomorrow. So have a wonderful day, and love to see you.
All right, thanks everybody.
Bye.